Trigun is one of the best anime I have ever watched. It has a lot of amazing and riveting characters that either always entertain me or prompted me to ponder about life, like Vash and Wolfwood. It also has an awesome soundtrack that always hypes me up. Whenever I hear those guitar riffs, I just know that something incredible is going to happen. The setting of the show, a vast desert planet somewhere far away from Earth, is different yet interesting. And ironically, for such a place, it is full of life. I am a fan of the Western genre, and there are only a few anime shows out there that has a similar setting, which is why Trigun immediately appealed to me. I love a lot of things about this world, especially the interesting tweaks the author made to expand the genre to science fiction. A civilization in a barren, desert planet seems simple enough. Until I saw a humongous power plant in the shape of a bulb, gigantic sand streamers that are used for transport by the people, which are like cruise ships but on sand, and great remains of a deep colonization spaceship floating in the sky. I chose Trigun as the next classic anime I should watch after Cowboy Bebop and Berserk because I thought that the next one I would watch should be different from those two. I've been familiar with the main character, Vash, for years. So I thought, why not watch a classic Western anime? I'm so glad I did, because Trigun was not just a typical Western. There were also quite a few science fiction elements in the anime, which were a nice surprise. I've never watched this kind of blended genre, so I thought that this would be a great anime to watch. But of course, the main reason why I chose Trigun was because of its protagonist, the humanoid typhoon, Vash the Stampede. Vash is an interesting and complex character. His reputation precedes him throughout his journey with all the people he meets because of the enormous bounty on his head. He is known as a highly dangerous individual that can annihilate entire cities in an instant. Now, all of these claims are true, but his character and demeanor are entirely different from the stories the people make. Ironically, someone as powerful as him is a pacifist, which is what made him an interesting character for me, and when his backstory was revealed, it makes sense for him to act the way he does. Throughout the series, he always had to deal with a situation where he would face dangerous and violent people, and he would always deal with them in the most non-lethal way possible. He was amazingly consistent about his ideals until Legato came along. Legato is a great, no-nonsense villain. He knows what he has to do and has a plan of action on how to do it. Make Vash the Stampede suffer. And since he is only focused on that plan, he has been consistently successful in doing it by utilizing the gung-ho guns. In the episode Diablo, Vash saw Monev the Gale murder a lot of innocent people, devastated that he was not able to save them. Further in the series, he was forced to relive the horrors and trauma of the July incident where lots of innocent people died when Legato activated Vash's angel arm, leading to the decimation of another city and putting a hole on the moon. When Vash and Wolfwood went to the floating Project Seed ship, the gung-ho guns ambushed them, leading to the deaths of many innocent people, the destruction and fall of the ship, and the death of Brad by sacrificing his life to save Vash. All of these events were orchestrated by Legato and the gung-ho guns, which have caused immense pain and sorrow to our hero. I saw how terribly difficult it must be for Vash. For someone as skillful and powerful as him, being unable to save every life that only got in danger because of him must have been traumatizing. But Legato was not done yet, and the scene where he performed his last act to make Vash suffer is, in my opinion, the best scene in the entire show. That scene was the culmination of everything that Vash and Legato has been working towards. Vash with a strict adherence to his pacifistic moral code, and Legato trying to break those principles, which he successfully did. Trigun became a classic not just because of its extremely cool-looking protagonist, nor its interesting story and desert planet setting, nor the entertaining and funny moments among the characters, but also because the ideas and concepts that the show touches are thought-provoking. Some of the more serious parts of the show have certainly prompted me to think about things, like the concept of lesser evil, killing one soul to save countless of others, the terrible consequences of being a pacifist in a highly violent and dangerous world, and more. Maybe that's why Trigun is such a beloved franchise, because a lot of people out there have had the same experiences I had. The best episode of Trigun for me is Sin, because that is where Vash and Legato had their final showdown, in which Legato won, not physically, but spiritually, because he made Vash break his moral code. He was left with no choice but to kill Legato in order to save the townsfolk and his two closest friends, Meryl and Millie. The significance of this scene is so big for me because I've never seen a lot of anime villains who completely broke the hero. When watching some of the other animes, I just know that the protagonist will eventually beat the antagonist in a predictable way, because that's how it always happens. Trigun is different though, and that's why I was so genuinely surprised when I watched this episode. Vash won, but at what cost? He has been under Legato's thumb throughout the show, and everything that Vash did was, in one way or another, orchestrated by Legato. With his death, Vash has finally broken his moral code and his promise to Rem, which he has been successfully keeping for decades. Even though he knows he did the right thing, it still broke him, but he had no choice. What's amazing about this show is that Vash's decision was not done on a whim. Throughout the series, his faith on his principles has been repeatedly tested by tricky situations and his friends, especially Wolfwood. Everything that happened to him from the start has developed his character immensely, which culminated in his decision to kill Legato, to sacrifice his principles for the greater good. And with the death of the criminal mastermind, Vash's suffering was complete. He will never be the same person after that incident. This is the greatest scene in Trigun, and, for me, it cemented the show as one of the great anime classics. Everything that happened to Vash has been building up for this moment, and he has finally learned that sometimes he needs to do whatever is necessary to save the lives of people in danger, no matter how violent the action may seem.